You're not in any of the shots.
What's that?
You're not in any of the shots. If you want to be in the shots.
Get closer to Jay.
Get close.
Dave, have you ever seen a guy get pumped up like that for his own theme music? That's awesome.
I could see the goosebumps. I got the goosebumps myself.
I got to pick that song myself.
Yeah?
I did. I loved it. They gave us a website. There's so many. There was like over 1,000 songs you got to choose from. And I like this one. It almost reminds me of the movie Saw, the first movie, where near the end, Jigsaw finally stands up.
Yeah.
Because you thought he was dead the whole time. And that music that's playing, it just reminds me of that. It's awesome.
It fits. I mean, it's the House of Truth. It's a pretty
dramatic, epic music. Yeah, I love it.
Larger than life.
Yeah.
I mean, Truth Martini, and let's start there, Jay. You know, here's a guy, if you're a Ring of Honor fan, you know damn well who he is. If you're not a Ring of Honor fan, there's a guy who you need to get to know, because he is one of the underrated personalities in all of pro wrestling, in my opinion.
And he's a genius. Before my second return to Ring of Honor, I actually didn't know who Truth Martini was. And it wasn't until I was back in Ring of Honor for about a month or two that I really started to like everything that he was doing. Man, if you can just get a second to talk to him, just for 5 minutes, you'll realize that when it comes to wrestling. Some of his other views outside of wrestling may be a little absurd and off the wall, but when it comes to wrestling, he's a genius.
It's funny, like 3 years ago, I had an ill-fated stint as an announcer for Ring of Honor, and Truth Martini was in the back, and he had the book, and he's pacing back and forth, and it's almost like he's unapproachable. Like, you don't want to go near him. Like, he's in the zone before every match, and he is like, all right, I better stay away from this guy. Do you get that sense sometimes?
Yeah, that's that mad scientist at work, you know.
So you talked about the goosebumps, or Dave did. Will you be getting goosebumps tonight? You know, you're in the main event. This is not just an ordinary match. I mean, I could pick out a handful of Ring of Honor matches. Probably most recently that I got up for this level would probably be Steen Generico. I believe that was 2012, if memory serves me right. You can't say that most matches, even championship matches, get to this level. First off, both championships are on the line. Very interesting and unusual and awesome all in the same. Two, what you mentioned prior to our commercial break is very true. And I've said this, and this is with all due respect to Jay Brisco. And I'm being serious here. I love the guy. I think he's an incredible performer. But if you want a guy to kind of take that next step for Ring of Honor, to take you guys to another level, to chaperone the new Destination America era for Ring of Honor, I'm taking Jay Lethal.
And I'll give you that $50.
I'd be serious about it.
Thank you very much. I mean, that's an honor to hear you say something like that. I love it. Speaking of the goosebumps, one thing that's really going to give me goosebumps is my parents are going to be in attendance. And from my very first show, and for 5.5 years to follow, every single show that I had, my parents were there. Sometimes promoters would offer me a plane ticket, and they would ask me to have them cancel the ticket because we want to drive. And we would all drive. In fact, Ring of Honor had a show in Chicago. It was the first time a company had ever wanted to fly me. They were going to fly me. My parents wanted to rent a van. I remember we stayed at a Crown Plaza. I had 6 brothers and sisters. Most of them came. We all crowded into this one room, and we made a big road trip out of it. And my parents, from the start to the finish, have been a big fan. They've watched everything I've done, and this is a very big moment to have them in the crowd, even before the match even starts. And no matter what the outcome, that moment, just being able to see them there to watch me in this epic, historic moment for Ring of Honor, especially since Ring of Honor was the first real taste of wrestling that I've ever had. and my parents as well. In fact, my mom is a big fan of Christopher Daniels, and when he had the prophecy, in fact, whenever she sees him, she says she wants her prophecy back. But yeah, that's really what's going to give me goosebumps. It really is a really big moment. Not taking anything away from Jay Brisco, my personal feelings aside, he's been a pretty good champion. I have been a good champion, and we're gonna clash for what is probably the biggest moment in Ring of Honor. One person will be the #1 man in the sport. One person will have both belts, and it's an unbelievable experience for whoever gets to say that they're the undisputed champion, which is going to be myself, of course.
Well, you mentioned biggest moment.
Yeah.
I really do think this is the biggest match in the history of Ring of Honor. You know, Doug and I have been fans of Ring of Honor since the days of Basketball City matches here in Manhattan. You think of Destination America, tonight it's on pay-per-view, title versus title. This is probably the biggest match in the history of the company.
Yeah, and I just thought of the fact that after the match, when I'm the winner, I'm going to look at my parents. Hopefully they're looking over at the Briscoes' parents, and they'll realize that their son was better.
Wow.
Well, they could also say, look, you know, we definitely have different parenting styles. I mean, I was just,
Right.
I was watching Papa Briscoe on the farm. yesterday.
Right. That's another thing. He compared, he said that I came from good parents just like them. You know, he compared my parents to them. Good, God-fearing people, he said. Well, I have a personal agenda today to prove that my parents are nothing like his parents. They actually made a winner. Because Jay Briscoe's claiming that he's been undefeated or unpinned for 2 years, and I went on record saying that for like 4 months he was out with an injury, and it's like impossible to pin him because he's not having matches, and I compared it to me being undefeated for 2 years in NASCAR, which I can say if he can say he's undefeated for 4 years, right? It's a ridiculous claim.
Wow. Is there anyone that's the polar opposite of you than somebody like Jay Briscoe?
No.
I mean, really. I mean, totally opposite.
Totally opposite. In that video, that live broadcast yesterday that Briscoe put up, first of all, he was late because he was off mowing someone's lawn. I would never mow someone's. I pay someone to mow my lawn. Maybe afterwards I'll pay him to mow my lawn. Maybe I can be added to his list of lawns when he's not tending the chickens.
No, I was going to mention
Look at these nails. I don't do.
You have to have a certain way about you when you're a champion.
Right.
You know, it's you grew up watching Ric Flair. I mean, Ric Flair as champion, you kind of have to emulate that a little bit.
You hit the
nail on the head.
Nail on the head, right. I'm a huge fan of Ric Flair. I'm a huge fan of wrestling in general, as we all are.
Absolutely.
We wouldn't be in this room right now. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Ric Flair, and by the way, I beat him. So I'm not a fan of his anymore.
Wow, well, he's probably not a fan of yours either. But I was saying, you as a champion. No, listen. You know, Doug mentioned it. Face of the company. You know, being the champion, you have to carry yourself in a certain way. Here we are. We have you here in studio. You were early. You know, you came here early with your entourage and security, but you were here early. You mentioned Jay Briscoe coming late to the segment that you were having yesterday. There's a certain way that you have to be, certain way you have to carry yourself as a champion.
Right. In that video, he was wearing jeans and a cutoff. I don't own shirts that don't have sleeves on them and buttons. I mean, the only shirt I own that's like that is my Ring of Honor shirt that has Jay Lethal written on it and the greatest first-generation wrestler. I would never cut the sleeves off. I don't own a pair of sneakers. I mean, you're right. We couldn't be total opposites. I mean, we couldn't be more opposite, you know?
You know, Dave mentioned Flair, and, you know, you got a smile on your face, and it's understandable why. And I look at that match as like a hallmark match in the career of Jay Lethal. But is tonight a bigger match? Is tonight the biggest match of your career?
Funny you mention that. I considered to be, because I've never been married and I don't have any kids, I considered the match with Ric Flair to be the greatest night of my life. After tonight, once I become the undisputed champion, it will replace my match with Ric Flair. And here's my logic in my head. My match with Ric Flair was, I enjoyed it. It was great. It was epic for me. A lifetime achievement, so to speak. But it was just one night. And it didn't go past that one day. This moment, when I become the Ring of Honor Undisputed Champion, it will last much longer than that one night with Ric Flair in the ring. Like I said, and I don't want to take anything away from it, Ric Flair, there are some people who would only dream of being in the ring with him, and I got to do it. But tonight, it means much more, way more than that.
Wow. Now, first of all, marriage, way overrated. So you probably took the right route with that one. But when you talk about somebody like Jay Brisco, and you talk about the Ring of Honor fan, the wrestling fan, do you think, as far as a wrestling fan, they're more relatable to somebody like Jay Brisco as opposed to you? No, because you mentioned the shirt with this is the only shirt that I own with buttons, and I always wear sneakers.
Oh.
So, just going from that logic alone, Jay Brisco is probably a little bit more relatable to me, and maybe the wrestling fan as well.
Well, I tell you what. Do you want to be like Jay Brisco, or do you want to be like me?
I guess we'll find out after tonight.
Jay Brisco might be a step back for you, buddy.
Because I'm sure there's plenty of people out there dreaming to one day run a chicken farm and mow 9 people's yards in one day, like he's Superman or something, you know?
I think
able to mow 6 yards in a single night.
there's 2 things that I love about Brisco. One, he's the ROH World Champion, so I mean that would be pretty cool. I'd be into that.
Yes.
The second thing is, when he works out, he drinks beer, and I think that's kind of cool. But aside from that, I'd rather be lethal.
There you go. I think a lot of people listening, I think a lot of people in general who watch Ring of Honor, if they had a choice to be Jay Lethal or Jay Brisco, knowing the lifestyle that we both live, I think it's hands down they would pick me without even thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I would also say too, in all seriousness, Jay Brisco's put his body through hell. Not to say that you don't put your life on the line yourself, but my God, he's been in some bloodbaths, and I think you are maybe a little bit more selective, and you know you've kind of risen in a different way up the ranks, so you get to pick and choose a little bit more.
Yeah, my dad said earlier today, he goes, "Are you ready for your match with Jay Brisco?" I said, "Yeah," and he goes, "I'm sure you're gonna make him bleed because that guy, I don't think he feels like he's wrestling if he's not bleeding."
He's like the wrestling version of Jerry Cooney. Every time he steps in the ring, he starts bleeding.
Jerry Cooney, Sirius XM Zone,
or like Ric Flair. Like Ric Flair, I think was he's like on his way to the ring. So
we had.
I mean, he's doing a promo. He's punching himself in the face.
Right.
Amazing. You know, you said about this title right here that you made the title. I love the line, and here's speaks to again the differences between, at least perceived differences from your standpoint, between you and Brisco, in that you've made this title, and then the World Championship has made Brisco. 100%. Very, very different thought process.
100%. For instance, I bet there aren't many people who can name the people who had this Ring of Honor Television Championship before I did. That's how great of a job I'm doing. Also, I mentioned the fact that the Ring of Honor World Championship, everyone assumes, is the #1 championship in Ring of Honor. And that is only because for all of these years, that is what they have been told by everyone who has held that championship. Guys like Samoa Joe, guys like CM Punk, guys like Nigel McGuinness. Everyone who's held that belt has told them and the world this is the #1 championship in professional wrestling. Well, it's been a lie because this here, the Ring of Honor, what they call the Ring of Honor Television Championship, but I've turned it into much more than that. This is the #1 championship in the world, and it's because I have it, not because Jay Brisco holds a belt that other people in this wrestling world, they give them much more credit. For instance, There's a lot of fans out there of CM Punk, Samoa Joe, Bryan Danielson, Nigel McGuinness. There are a lot of fans of those guys. So therefore, because they held that belt, it's somehow prestigious because they have had it. And I don't think of it like that. I think of the here and now. And what Jay Briscoe is doing with that World Championship is nothing compared to what I'm doing with the Ring of Honor, what they call the Ring of Honor Television Championship. But I've made it much more than the Ring of Honor Television Championship. First of all, I've defended it far more times than he has, I'm sure. I've lost count. Ring of Honor Television Championship. I defend this belt when there isn't even a television camera around. That's how far I've gone. And like I said, even I can't remember who had this before I did. And I don't really care because there's only one person who matters, and that is I have it now.
Wow.
Really?
Pretty strong. Pretty
That
strong.
is tremendous stuff. And let's be honest.
Well,
Can you disagree with what he's saying?
You can't, because like what he just said, you shouldn't call it a television championship if he's defending it and there's no TV camera around.
Well, and think of it like this. How good of a job is Jay Briscoe doing with the Ring of Honor World Championship if people keep mentioning the past and everyone who's had it before him? You can't be doing a great job if they keep mentioning anyone who's had it before you. No one mentions the fact that a man by the name of Matt Taven held this. No one mentioned that Tommaso Ciampa held this. No one cares that Christopher Daniels at one time held this. All they care about is that I have it now. And that is a true test of any champion. If you can get them to stop worrying about who had it before you, that means you're doing a damn good job.
Wow. 866-522-2846. Back with more of Jay Lethal and his championship. I'm not even going to call it the Ring of Honor Television Championship. After that, you do realize there's much more. You do realize what's on the line tonight. Terminal 5, Ring of Honor.
Historical, monumental.
Best in the world. Champion versus champion in the main event. Hanging with Jay Lethal here at the Busted Open Studios in Midtown Manhattan, Mortman LaGreca. Dave, people, of course, want to talk to the champ over here.
Who doesn't?
Soon to be multiple title holder after tonight at Terminal 5. Not only live here in New York City, Dave, but on pay-per-view, on the Flips app. You know, there's a multitude of ways that you could get this show tonight if you're not in the New York City area and can't get in to Terminal 5 Live like we will be. And also, we will be recording interviews with a lot of the Ring of Honor stars in attendance.
Yes.
Those interviews, once consummated, once edited, once our pal I Keep It 5-Star Kyle Lewis gets his hands all over them, that will be up at BustedOpenNation.com.
Can't wait.
Let's get to the phones, 866-522-2846. Some questions for Mr. Lethal. Uno the Great from Oklahoma. Uno. What's up?
What's up, Uno?
And that's the world heavyweight champion. He is the world heavyweight champion. He's the one that counts. The TV title is great. Hey, it's better than nothing, right, Black Brisco?
Wow.
Well, first of all, I think I hear Jay Brisco sitting next to you. That's first of all. Where are you from? Yeah, I bet. Make sure you bring him to the building nice and early. Let him get many pictures with that Ring of Honor World Championship, because it will be mine at the end of the night. And you know, hopefully you give him a ride home, and then he can tell you all his stories about how he used to be the champion.
Well, I'll tell you what. If it happens, Jay, if you pull off a win tonight, I know there's going to be some chicanery. I know there's going to be a little something going on behind the scenes. I know it's not going to be a clean win.
Oh, boy.
May wind up being across the ring for you sometime very, very soon.
Uno the Great.
Oh, Uno the Great.
Some bravado from Uno the Great.
Oh, my goodness. This is a joke. Get this guy off here.
Let's talk about it, though.
Oh, no.
We know who.
That was great.
That was
I
good.
needed that laugh. That
The
was great.
LaGreca formula, though.
Today has been
You
a
called me
very...
Dave. I'm upset mostly about that. I mean, you want to butcher my last name? That's fine. Doug, damn it. We know who will be up against you, likely, next, because there's a number one contenders match tonight. Who do you think is coming out of this three-way? Elgin, Strong, and Moose. Three very, very tremendous competitors. I think Roddy is really on the uptick here.
Well, don't think for a single second that I haven't thought about this already, because, like I said, tonight I will become the undisputed champion of Ring of Honor. So that means my first title defense would be against whoever is the winner between Elgin, a former champion, Roderick Strong, a former champion, and Moose. And my hopes, my pick to win would actually be Moose, because he's actually got a pretty good record going. He's never been champion, and he's going to fight with everything he has. And I'd love to kill the Moose.
A little moose hunt.
Yeah.
So you're definitely a champion that wants to go up against the best.
Right. Also, I mean, Roddy and Elgin have already had their shot. Let's open the doors to some people who haven't actually had a taste of Ring of Honor Gold yet.
Let's check in with Alex in Nevada. Who wants to talk to Jay? What's up, Alex?
Thank you very much, guys, for taking my call. I had a question, Jay. As someone, I'm 30 years old and I'm a black person, and watching you on television not portray a rapper for an evangelical clapping group, I would just like to say thank you. And what are your thoughts about the portrayal of black wrestlers and how they're oftentimes forced to do stereotypes?
Well, I will say to start, once I become the undisputed champion of Ring of Honor, it will be a new day.
That's funny.
But it's an honor to me to be able to hold well, not so much hold, but it's an honor to represent a certain type of people, that being African Americans, and not such a stereotypic role. I normally don't ever talk about it because I don't ever see things in black and white like that. I try to stay on the positive side. Not that this conversation isn't positive, it's just I try not to look at it like this. But I do have to say, because my dad has pointed out a few times too, I'm extremely honored, and it's a privilege to be able to do something that I love and not be pigeonholed into doing a certain gimmick or a certain thing, or acting a certain way, or saying certain things that I actually would never say it, but just because it's already stereotyped that certain kind of people would say it this way. So yeah, I gotta say that it's an honor to be able to freely do what I want as an African American.
And I think most wrestling fans probably look at that the same way that you do. I think they're intelligent to understand that as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
But like I said, it will be a new day once I
I'm not going to clap. So I am.
Neither am I.
Sorry.
Please. Okay. Lethal.
It's good.
Let's do that.
Let's get that going.
Awesome.
So, on a less jovial note, you obviously being a historian of the game, and somebody who has done a lot of studying, I'm sure it hit you like it hit the rest of us when Dusty passed away. Just your initial thoughts when you heard it.
Man, it was a complete shock to me. And one thing that I hope that no one gets upset about this, one thing that I did think automatically was, well, finally, there isn't something that they could all point and go, you see, another one is gone because of steroids, you know, like there was nothing negative surrounding this one, which was so good to hear so far anyway. And I've got to work with Dusty a very short period of time. I got to take his bionic elbow.
Awesome.
And my dad has a really good Dusty Rhodes impression. He was a big fan of Dusty Rhodes. And for somebody that I had never really gotten to sit down and talk to, hearing his passing actually affected me a lot more than I thought it would. Also, being a student of the game, you can't be a Ric Flair fan without being a Dusty Rhodes fan. And yeah, like I said, as much as my life could have been affected by someone that I never sat down and had a legit conversation with, it was deeply impacted and affected when I found out or heard about the loss.
You know, you said something interesting there in terms of you can't possibly say anything bad, you know, as you look at Dusty Rhodes posthumously, because he was that great a guy. I mean, you're never going to talk about steroids with him. You know, he's just, you know, he literally was who he was. You know, it just seems, though, overall, my God, you could just look at it from a generic standpoint. Just too many legends of the game being lost, you know, early and often. It just seems we keep taking blows as pro wrestling fans and as people in the industry.
Yeah, it's oh man, it's sad. It's sad, but like I said, the greatest part about it, if there is a great part about it, is that there's no negativity surrounding this other than the fact of losing a great person.
Yeah.
Like I always said, it's like you wanted to be Ric Flair, but you could relate to Dusty.
Right. I think Jay Brisco related to him a little too much.
So, tonight, biggest match of your career, biggest match maybe in Ring of Honor history. What's the pregame ritual? And what are you doing tonight prior to arriving at Terminal 5, and then once you get to the arena to get up? I mean, you don't have to get up for this match, but you got to wait quite a while till this match ensues.
Well, I'm not mowing lawns, that's for starters. And you want to know something interesting? Someone asked me the other day, you know, this is such a big moment. And knowing that, you know, if you or Jay Brisco wins, how can you guys, being an undisputed champion, step your game up? And I had to make a little correction to that statement, not to sound braggadocious or cocky, and even giving Jay Brisco his due. This is such an important moment for Ring of Honor. And I, up until this point, everything that I've done has made me ready for this moment. And throughout the course of my life, my wrestling career, I have stepped up my game. Jay Brisco, throughout the course of his wrestling career, some would say he stepped up his game. And the only reason I think that the two of us could be in a position like this is because no matter what the outcome, there's no matter which one of us wins, no one has to step up their game because we're already there. I just sometimes I hate giving Jay Brisco so much credit, but he's the Ring of Honor World Champion, which is no easy feat. Otherwise, there'd be many more Ring of Honor World Champions. I am the Ring of Honor Television Champion, which is also no easy feat. Everything that we have been through, all the hard work has come to this moment. And once there is a crowned undisputed champion, like I said, neither one of us has to step up our game because we have already stepped it up to this moment. So once this moment is over, we will just continue with what we have been doing because we have already leveled up, so to speak. We've already stepped up our game in every way possible. And it's a testament to my life's work and his. And overall, like I said, I believe that I will be the undisputed champion at the end of the night. Jay Brisco and I couldn't be more opposite. He said some really harsh things. The last thing I saw him say on that little live broadcast was, heavy is the head that wears the crown. And he said that my head wasn't big enough to wear the crown. He said that I had a pea head. Well, the funny part is I have no smart, funny comment, no quip, no funny remark to fire back at, to counteract his comment. What's going to counteract it is tonight I will become the undisputed champion of Ring of Honor.
Terminal 5, pay-per-view, flips, Ring of Honor.
Well, boys, that's it. Tonight, like I said, I will become the undisputed champion of Ring of Honor. Jay Brisco, you see what I did? I sat in this chair and I talked like a human being. No curse words needed. I didn't have to pace around because your confidence is shot. All the pacing around, you do all the cursing, it leads to one thing. It shows the world that you're nervous deep down inside. I can sit here relaxed, calm, and talk to anybody who wants to talk to me. And I'm going to do a whole lot of more talking tonight when I become the undisputed champion. And Jay, once I do that, I will sit atop the wrestling world because like I said, the only way to sit on top of this world that we call professional wrestling, this world that we love, the only way to sit on top of that world is to be the undisputed champion of the greatest wrestling company in the history of wrestling, and that is Ring of Honor. Tonight, Jay Brisco, you get all of me, and tonight I walk out the man. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Good luck, man. I'll see you there.